Welcome to this watercolor gathering. In this watercolor gathering, I'm going to demonstrate how I take this painting that I did some years ago that I found to be boring again or not particularly interesting to me. So I decided that I would reinvent it once more, like I just did recently. This is not a painting demonstration, this or workshop, what have you. This is more an explanation on how I made these changes to this painting, and for me, made it much more interesting. So this is what I started with a bright sort of spring background and a purple foreground, and then some very faded trees. I decided to make a collage, so I took black tissue paper and laid glue down on the painting and applied the tissue paper to the old painting. And then I started to add some details around the base of the trees, and you'll see later on I kind of changed that a little. So now that I had some trees down, I thought I'd just try and paint some branches coming off them just to see if I was going to like it. Um, and so I decided yes, but I needed to add more trees. So this is a detail of the tissue paper and how I squish it together so that you can see that it starts to look like bark. It's not exactly the same as bark, but it definitely looks like bark. And once I had that and put some branches in, I went in with this old brush that is got a little dull. It's lost its point because I use it a lot for stippling. So I mixed up a mixture of purple and Payne's grey to stipple in these leaves. So this is the first layer of leaves. On the right you can see I started with more purple and decided to go with a little bit darker color. So I did this on all of the trees and all of the branches I had put in. And but again, I was thinking that it still was missing something with the stippling. So next I will show you how I did that. So using the same mixture of Payne's grey and purple, I took a sea sponge and used that to create, and this particular sea sponge has lots of little hills. So it really did a nice design on the smaller leaves in these trees, which you'll see in the next frame. And so you can see where I stippled, but then I added in some smaller leaves hanging down using that sponge. And I think it gives a nice overall effect to these trees. I wanted to try and make this sort of a magical forest or an enchanted forest. So I used a round brush to run stripes across the background. It was a damp brush, and then I used a tissue to lift it. And also I was using some a paintbrush with just a little dampness on it, and I would just make a circle with it and then dab it up just to add some like orbs in the background that you might or might not see in the woods. And then I added some roots to all of the trees. just to get them all grounded and add a little bit more detail to that foreground. You can see in the background some of the orbs I put in with the damp paintbrush and then just dabbed it up with a paper towel or a tissue. And the trees are actually looking quite realistic now. Then I wanted to add a little bit more magic to this image, and this is the finished painting, but you can see that I added some wildflowers at the base of these trees. First of all, I used some Hooker's green light mixed with cadmium yellow to start putting the greenery around the trees. I'm using random effects, and then I used permanent rose to put in the pink flowers. And then I wanted to add some light colors, so I used white gouache and a mixture of white gouache and yellow gouache to put in the light white daisies or wildflowers that are in this image at the base. And it really makes them pop, like they're magical. They could even be fireflies. So anyway, I was quite happy with the use of that gouache in this instance. And so here's the finished image painting. I call it Fairy Glen. Reminds me of a spot where we used to build fairy houses. But it has sort of an ethereal feel and magical feel to it. So I'm quite happy with the way it came out. Um, I have done a couple of these now, and I just want you all to know that you don't always have to throw your paintings away if you don't like them or get disappointed about them. Just put them aside, because one day you might be able to reinvent them into something new. And I've done that several times over the last few years. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you find it inspirational and don't get too disappointed when you don't like one of your paintings. So, thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed this and hopefully it was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Leave any comments that you might have below. Thanks a lot for joining me.